the request to the broken party.
Hello and welcome to the Fitz and Healthy podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauren Fitz. And today, not only do I have my beautiful co-host, Cinthanie. What's up, girl?
Hey, girl. Hey.
But I have another beautiful guest who you guys don't know, but you will definitely get to know her after today's episode. Carly Pollack, who is an Austinite. Actually, you're transferred or Austinite because you're originally a New Yorker, right?
Hey, girl. Hey.
Yeah.
Got to throw that in there.
And I first of all, I want to introduce you and give you a proper introduction and let the listeners know how you and I even got hooked up. And this just goes to show when great minds think alike, their paths cross, and you and I and Cinthanie are all like-minded females because we're all three of us are intelligent. We're strong-willed powerhouses that really do want to change the world for the better. And by doing that, we spread our message and we share our knowledge, our life experience, and we ultimately just want to empower people to change their lives for the better. And so a common friend basically is the reason why we got connected. I've never met you in person before, but our common friend got us hooked up. And of course, that common friend is like-minded, like myself. And here we are today, spreading the message that we can change our lives with some basic tools. And so everyone, welcome Carly Pollack. So let the listeners know who you are and kind of why they should even be listening to this interview on this podcast with you.
Yeah. You should be listening because you shouldn't be listening. You should be watching because we're three hot chicks.
Thank you. That's a great point. That's a great point. I know.
It's a blonde sandwich we've got. So my background is, it is always said in the spiritual world, it's always said that we teach what we most need to learn. I really believe that a lot of healers and people who really preach the health and vitality wisdom are people who have gone through something in their own lives that has forced them to seek out this information in order to heal themselves on some either emotional or physical level, and then also to heal others. That's really where my story starts. Far before I went to school for this type of information, I was a young kid, a very anxious young kid growing up. And it wasn't one of those situations where you can point to some sort of trauma. I had a great childhood. My parents were fantastic. They constantly told me to chill out and just, be who I was. But
right.
I was this OCD perfectionist kid, lots of anxiety, and I used food to comfort. That was the thing that I had access to at the time. And then growing up as an inner city kid, once I became a teenager, it was food and drugs. And then having to get sober many years later. But because food and dieting is intricately related with our body image, when you think about it, not a lot of people will diet based on the desire to prevent disease because vanity drives us, especially at a young age. But even at an older age, most of the time we're looking at manipulating our food either because we're at a pain threshold, whether it's we have diabetes and the doctor's threatening to cut our leg off, or we're at a pain threshold emotionally because even our fattest pair of pants doesn't fit us.
Yep. You just spoke to a lot of people right there in that statement.
Yeah. The hard part about being motivated by pain is that as soon as you make even small changes, the pain goes away. This is why most people pendulum swing back and forth, never from their place of ultimate peace and happiness, but just from their pain threshold to a little bit beyond it, where they go, oh, okay, finally my fat pair of pants fits me, but I really want to lose that last 10, 20, 40, but they never get there. They'll pendulum swing from pain threshold to just kind of okay.
Yeah.
So usually people start to diet because they're at a pain threshold of some sort, or because they're in pain because their body image is not where they want it to be. And that was me. I hated my body. I was obsessed with my body. I was obsessed with the cellulite on my thighs. of course, looking back, it's such a sad thing because I actually was this beautiful young girl. It wasn't more than, 10 or 15. I was chubby.
Right.
But to me, I was a chubby New York girl. I was eating gluten for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I was eating Italian, and I'm Jewish, so I was eating bagels on Sunday.
Yes.
But so then, I tried every diet that I possibly could.
Right.
And knowing that, on and off the pendulum swing between food prison and reckless abandonment. Finally, there was so much chaos because of the weight and the food and also the anxiety because that problem never went away.
Yeah.
Typically, we use food as a distraction to create a secondary problem when the first problem is too overwhelming. Really dealing with...
You need to repeat that because they need to hear that.
We tend to use food to create a secondary problem when the first problem that we're dealing with, it's just too overwhelming. We don't have the tools or capacity to deal with it. So we create a distraction by creating a secondary problem.
That is so true. And I know that speaks to so many people's heart that just hit people in the gut right now.
Yeah.
And pick your poison. So we're talking about food, but it can be shopping or gambling. It's the distraction that causes its own set of problems. And then you already have the first problem. In fact, I'll say that when I turn to use food for comfort, I always say to myself, Carly, you want 2 problems or 1? One is so much easier to deal with.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Okay, so you're going along. At what point, what stage of life did you have your epiphany? Like, I got to stop this pendulum.
Yeah, and I will say there was an epiphany, but not an epiphany where I woke up and changed my health, because a lot of times that doesn't happen for people.
Right.
Truly, it was a mental epiphany, and then making very small steps for a long period of time, and then before you know, you turn around, and you go, "Wow, I'm so much healthier than I was before." But when I was in college, I was heavy and really unhappy, and I think my epiphany there was, holy shit, this has nothing to do with food.
Right.
I've been thinking about food constantly, and it's so common for when you want to lose weight. It's like, oh, it's food and exercise, which logistically, of course it is.
Yeah.
But no one addresses the mind work piece of what gets you to wake up with an authentic desire day after day after day to do the consistent behaviors. And I said this, my focus is off because I keep focusing on dieting and exercise. And even though I knew, of course, they were needed, my strategy was not there, right? Because if it's not creating an outcome, then I have the wrong strategy.
Did you have someone cross your path that made you realize that and come to that epiphany? Or was it just kind of like...
Yeah. What was the awakening?
Honestly, it was probably the 17th time I yo-yoed up 15 pounds.
Right.
It was, I really can't pinpoint it, but it was probably a morning that I woke up, stepped on the scale made me feel like crap. Then I started saying nasty things to myself, walk into the closet, look at all the jeans, the one pair of skinny jeans that I bought on a day where you felt skinny, which is the worst thing you could possibly do.
Yes.
Like your post-food virus, go shopping, buy a pair of jeans. Don't ever do that ever.
Guilty.
Yep. You just spoke to like 100% of our audience.
And then the jeans like grew flaps and started talking, and it was like, you're a lazy piece of whatever. And I said, you know what? I can't do this to myself anymore. And what I'm doing is not working, and there has to be another way.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of it. And you know what? At this point, I have an undergraduate degree in mainstream nutrition. I have a master's degree in holistic nutrition. After my master's degree, I received my CCN, which is a certified clinical nutritionist, which allows me to order lab work, and was a much deeper dive into holistic nutrition. I've been in private practice for 8 years. Before that, I moved to Austin from New York because I piloted the first nutrition consulting program for Whole Foods, and their world headquarters is here.
Nice.
Dang, girl, go get them. Be a boss. All right.
Yeah.
And what's funny, a piece about that is that in the beginning, I was like any other practitioner, which is I was giving people all this information. And then what would happen is they would go do it for a period of time. They would feel better. And then eventually they would come back to me and say, well, I'm not doing this for whatever reason. So it would be their story. I'm not doing this. And then I had no tools. So then I'm sitting across from them going, you really should do that thing I told you to do.
Really?
It
It works.
so much better. And then not understanding human psychology, then being in judgment of them, just as they were in judgment of themselves, going, what's wrong with you? You did this thing. It made you feel better. And now you're not doing this thing anymore.
Right. There's a missing element there.
That was my second epiphany already as a practitioner, saying, if I don't dive into the psychological understanding of what drives people to do what they do, what drives them to feel how they feel, think the way they think, how do I uncover these subconscious or unconscious core beliefs that are stopping people from moving forward with clarity, then it doesn't matter how much information I have, I won't be able to help these people improve their lives.
That gives me chills because it's so true. In fact, right now I have a conversation going on with two females that are very like-minded, like the three of us, and we're in the middle of this beta test group where we have almost 700 people that are basically doing a whole foods based diet that's higher in fat, moderate protein, low carbohydrate, and using intermittent fasting. And we're talking about the three major elements, and the third major element is the what goes on in the mind.
The mindset.
And if that doesn't change, all of the other stuff doesn't matter because it's a temporary fix. But if you really address the root cause, that's where change happens.
Yeah. People ask me, what do? You get that question.
Oh yeah.
And before I say, I'm a holistic nutritionist and I own a private practice and I lecture and I write, I say, I'm in the permanent change business. I'm in the business of helping people with tools to make permanent change, because I don't care about change. How many times have I seen a client 3 years later and it's like, oh man, you ruined my work.
No. What did you do?
You worked so hard.
No.
Yes.
And because I've gained and lost over 200 pounds, even though it's the same 20 pounds up and down every Monday through Friday, Monday through Friday, food prison, count your almonds, get your workouts, weekend, reckless abandonment, Sunday, last supper eating, because I knew the shackles were coming on Monday. And I always have this belief, Monday, I'm going to find the light and it's just going to be different. And we've all had that experience of being on a good momentum. And then you think to yourself, oh, I'm never going back there. In AA, they call it the blue cloud, like when you first get sober and you want to scream it from the rooftops and you're like, yeah, I'm never, I've had so many moments in my life. I'm like, oh, I'm done. I'm never eating sugar again. When I went off, the longest I've ever gone off sugar was 4 months, but no sugar whatsoever. And I was like glowing. I think I was enlightened, honestly.
Right.
Without that crap, I should have just put a turban on my head. I was just like, I didn't walk. I floated everywhere. But I had this feeling. I'm like, no, I'm done. And we've all fallen so far from grace in that, and been so humbled by that, by the fact that being healthy is not something to check off a list. You cannot master it. That's when I realized, wait, this is a spiritual practice, much like many other spiritual practices of forgiveness, compassion, present moment awareness, unconditional love, non-judgment. These things are day to day. You will practice them till the moment you take your last breath. Conscious eating is no different. Self-care is no different. If you try to check it off a list, you will be humbled.
So you say conscious eating. Tell us exactly what conscious eating is.
My definition of conscious eating is to bring awareness and intention before, during, and after you eat. It's not just pay attention to what you're eating, because I can consciously eat French fries.
Oh, girl, yeah.
I do. I never want it to end.
Cinthanie can consciously eat pizza. That's her thing.
I have so much pizza merchandise that I've never bought a pizza thing in my life, like pizza pen. I have a pizza snow globe that one of the listeners sent me because they know my affinity for pizza. So
that is so adorable. You need to watch this documentary on Vice where this man has only eaten pizza for 25 years.
Oh, wow.
Gosh.
And this is actually a really important takeaway from this. He's only eaten pizza for 25 years, and he's had some food aversions and trauma as a child, as you could suspect. And he gets blood work, and his blood work looks fine, so he sees no reason to stop eating pizza. And it's a good lesson that, you know, some people have weak constitution, strong constitution. Everybody is so different. Is he healthy? Of course not. This man eats gluten and dairy at every meal and hasn't touched a vegetable in 25 years. But one, it shows that blood work. Oh, and he's not overweight. You know, so one, blood work doesn't tell everything. So we can't live and die by the numbers.
No.
And two, you never know when one day you feel okay and the next day you don't.
Yeah.
How many times have we heard a client say, you know, I can't believe I've been eating gluten my whole life and now I'm having trouble with it. The body is always changing. You know, as we breathe, as we walk, it's never you're healthy now. This is how it's going to be. He might be okay until one day he wakes up and he's not.
Yeah.
Right.
What worked for you in the past to lose weight may not be working now. I can't tell you how often people get stuck. Women come in to see me with hormonal imbalance, and what they did even 5 years before, and it's logical, right? If you did it 5 years before and it worked, well, if A plus B equals C, why wouldn't you just do that again? And so they really can't get out of the fact that it may not work from them now. They're like, no, I'm just going to keep at it. And the body is so different. But yes, you need to watch.
I'm going to now. I'm going to go find it.
I'm intrigued.
Well, he has a fiance, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I like pizza, but I'm definitely not like, that just made me feel way better, honestly.
Yeah. Right. Well, you know, and one thing that I always tell people is that you really don't understand what it's like to feel the best you if you've never actually been there. And that I guarantee that dude has really never experienced what it feels like to really feel clear-headed, full of energy, like things that he just thinks are normal part of life and getting older are actually not, but you don't know it because that's all you've known, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. We also don't have gratitude for when things are going well. Notice only when you're in pain, you say, oh, right, my arms and legs work. I'm 4 months pregnant. And when I first became pregnant, I was so sick that I let go of a lot of the ways. My midwife said, let go of all the ways, you know, I thought I was going to be a green juicing mama. I'm like, I'm going to, and then every time, like, first of all, the smell of green juice made me want to hurl. You have superhuman smell. So it's like, I could smell everyone's breath. My husband would come near me. I'm like, your skin smells.
No way.
So anyway, with all these smell aversions, you have food aversions. And so I started to eat gluten because I just was crackers, you know, things like that, and not making an effort to do gluten-free.
Right.
And the other day I noticed eczema spots showing up on my skin for the first time in my life.
Interesting.
And I know for sure it's all the gluten I've been pumping through to my, I'm going to give birth to a loaf of bread. But it's humbling. And this is the thing. It's so important in the practice of being in permanent health is to be in non-judgment of the humanness of you.
Yeah.
You know, and the vulnerability of,
Preach.
hey, I'm a holistic practitioner and I'm telling you and everyone that I've been stuffing my face with the very thing I tell clients to avoid.
Yeah.
And it's been great feedback for me to get those spots on my body. And it's a great reminder, because when you go gluten-free for so long, you honestly stop, you don't remember why you make all that effort to do it, because you feel great. But that's your norm. And if you feel bad, that becomes your norm.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, and so you have to be really mindful, and that's part of conscious eating. You cannot be a conscious eater without being a conscious person.
Yeah. We are ever evolving. And so we have to allow ourselves grace in all aspects of our life, but especially when it comes to food, because I just think that people they're just not forgiving of themselves. They beat themselves up if they do have that gluten or if they do have a slice of pizza. And it becomes such an unhealthy relationship with not only food, but with themselves and the inner turmoil that it causes.
And you and I know that, there are people with autoimmune where if they eat gluten even once, it really could impact them for far greater consequence than it was to eat it. But I also ask you the stress of the judgment for that person. A lot of doctors don't take into account. There is a doctor that works here in town, and we send each other a lot of people because she's functional. So if I need, if I think someone needs a prescription or anything that I can't do, I'll send to her. And a client came in the other day, she said, this doctor said if I eat gluten even once, it's going to be in my body for 6 months and da-da. And I thought, that's more stress on the body than even if you would eat the gluten.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the mind work piece that we'll talk about today, is how strong your thoughts and emotions and beliefs are when it comes to your health at the surface. I kind of think that I always visualize an ocean, and the sand and the waves really come from the bottom, the tectonic plates. And so you have this idea of like at the bottom of your health pyramid is the mind work. It shouldn't be any food. It should be the mind work that you do day to day. And then as it bubbles up to the surface, you have your logistics, which is what you need to do every single day. You need to drink so much water that you pee your pants all day long. You need to go to sleep earlier than Netflix would want you to go to sleep. You need to batch cook. You need to food shop. You need to constantly clean dishes. You need to supplements. You need to exercise. You need to roll out. And then you should go to a chiropractor. And then you should get massage. And you should meditate. And you should read because it needs to feed your soul. And you need to put your feet on the bare earth. And there's a lot of ish that you need to do. And these are the logistics. People get really distracted by this. And at the same time, they attach a lot of pain to this, which is why they can't do it long term. Underneath and in support of the logistics is really this invisible structure, which is where the mind works comes in. One of the main reasons why people can't make permanent change is because the very things they need to do, the logistics of what they need to do to make change, their brain associates as painful. Humans do not do what causes them pain. It's a survival mechanism, much like the fight or flight, is that anything we associate pain to, we avoid. We fight or flight. Anything that we associate pleasure to, the brain wants to turn into a habit and a ritual that almost becomes unconscious. If you're talking to someone about changing their life and we're saying, hey, you like to eat these foods that we know cause a serotonin and dopamine reaction in the mind, we know from a brain chemistry perspective are addicting.
Yes.
So we know that these foods cause so much pleasure. We're telling you don't eat them, which causes pain. And then we say, good luck to you.
Yeah.
No wonder they're not successful.
No wonder they're not successful. If we're on the couch and we watching TV and we associate restriction with not eating, restriction is pain, then we'll only do it while we're in more pain than the pain of not eating it would cause. So that's a little confusing, but if we're in more pain, so if me being overweight is more painful to me, I associate more pain because I'm going to Mexico in a week and I'm about to be in a bikini with all of my girlfriends, and we all have those skinny friends who we hate, who are naturally thin. They eat crap. I would say that they're rotting on the inside. So don't worry.
Totally.
They're black and rotting on the inside.
Yes.
And if 1 and 2 gets cancer, it's coming for you. But, we have that pain piece. And I say, oh my goodness, I will be in so much more emotional pain when I'm in a bathing suit and I don't feel confident than I would not eating this dessert right now. Then I'll do it. That's why you should never get in the way of a woman who's about to get married. Like if you are at Whole Foods and in the prep food section, there's only one salad left, like you better watch your hand if there's also a woman there who's 2 weeks from her wedding, because she's savage.
That was Cinthanie.
I just got
3
married in
months ago.
September, and I can attest to that. And I've told everybody in my life, I cannot apologize enough for who I was the month before my wedding. Just saying.
It was
You
scary.
look fabulous.
Yes, you did.
But then the day after the wedding, that pain point has completely disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why then what comes back, which is the default, which it's much more painful not to eat those foods.
Totally.
And you know what is the biggest pain piece I see for people is time pain. I call it time pain. The time it takes. A lot of the pain that people associate to being healthy is the time it takes to exercise, the time it takes to cook, the time that for meditation, the time for self-care. We're all so busy under the belief that we don't have enough time. That scarcity story around time associates more pain to doing the thing than the actual thing does.
That's so true.
Well, how many times do people exercise? They're like, once I'm exercising, I love it. The music, and it feels so great. And it's time to go away from my kids or away from my wife or girlfriend or whatever. But getting there is the most painful pain point because they're thinking about all the other things they could do with their time that would be more pleasurable.
Mm-hmm. So what, in your opinion, are the top 3 reasons that people fail at dieting?
Yeah. The top 3 reasons. The first I would say is that we create scarcity around food.
Okay.
Which makes us crazy.
Okay.
Explain. If you create scarcity around anything, marketing companies know this so well. They'll create scarcity and it makes us act like wild animals.
Yes.
Think about, have you ever, I've done this. So I teach this and I still am a victim to the marketing. I go online to buy plane tickets. I'm not even freaking sure that it's the right date, but it says there's one ticket left and I'm like, I need that ticket.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or when you go shopping and you're kind of like, maybe I like this sweater, maybe it's hideous, but maybe it's the coolest thing ever. But if there's only 2 left, I'll buy it because I don't want anybody else to have it. It's scarce. Think about designer labels, which again, I can be a victim of, but a lot of these why do people want designer? Partly, yes, it's made really well and the actual designs, but we've all seen designer bags and shirts that literally you could get at Target. Sometimes someone will be wearing such a cute dress and I'm like, oh, it's so cute. How'd you get it? And they say Target. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm like, is it as cute? Or, or I'll pick up a shirt. I'll go to Neiman Marcus last call because, I'm Jewish, so I'm thrifty.
Yep.
And I pick up a shirt that and then I look at it and I'm like, I don't even think this is cute. I think I just picked this up because it's Rebecca Taylor.
Brand. Yeah.
If this were Old Navy, like, would I even be into this?
Yeah.
Why
So
we're under that veil of designer is because it's more expensive, which means less people can afford it, which makes it scarce.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Scarce things we want. Banana Republic, they did this campaign many years ago that they still use. They realized Wednesday was the lowest shopping income day for them. So every Wednesday they gave you 40% off. But that 40% off went away on Thursday. Therefore, it was a scarcity piece. Anything, Black Friday, how much stuff do you buy you don't need?
Yeah.
Because that piece, the biggest scarcity I've seen around food are the holidays, which we're in right now. Why do people binge eat Thanksgiving versus, we have other foods? We have these foods that we love, stuffing, turkey, all of these delicious dishes. Right. We only make them once a year. Why? Why?
Such a good question.
If you eat stuffing in February, like that's inappropriate.
I never thought about that.
Pie in March, how dare you? Like so tacky.
Right?
One thing I have 2 major tools to avoid food scarcity. Around Thanksgiving, I will make myself a Thanksgiving themed meal for every week for 4 weeks before Thanksgiving. I do it healthfully. So let's say one meal is I put turkey in the crock pot and then I'll make some sweet potatoes with ghee and cinnamon and pecans on top. And maybe I'll make a salad with some a spinach salad with dried cranberries. That would be one example. Maybe the following week I'll make a gluten-free stuffing. So I legitimately have the stuffing. I'll put a brisket in the crock pot. And then I will make some roasted Brussels sprouts with walnuts and drizzled honey.
My mouth is watering right now. Yes.
By the time Thanksgiving comes, I've had so much of this type of food that I'm kind of over it. And then I can just eat a normal meal.
Instead of stuff your face.
Instead of stuff your face and feel disgusting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, I never tell anyone, even this year's blog on Thanksgiving, I don't need to write the blog about eat nuts before you go. And that's out there and it's great information. Chew gum and, save your dessert for later and all that stuff. It's great. I told people this year, don't eat vegetables on Thanksgiving. You eat vegetables 364 days a year. If there's something green on my plate, I'm flicking it off because this is the illusion. We say that we're going to fill up on veggies and healthy food so that we don't eat the crap. But what we do is we still eat just as much crap and the veggies, and then we totally overeat and we stress our digestive systems and we feel like crap. The whole goal for Thanksgiving is don't overeat.
Yeah.
I don't need a salad on Thanksgiving. I eat a salad every day of my life.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I took one plate. I wanted it to be all white, like no nutrition whatsoever. I was turkey, potatoes, stuffing. I ate one plate. I wasn't overly full. And I didn't take leftovers and I walked away. But if I would have eaten all the healthy stuff that my mind is programmed to do, I would have overeaten.
That's such a good point.
It's a different way of looking at it. Scarcity around food. The other thing that I do is I give myself 2 free meals per week where I eat whatever I want. It's not free days because that creates a very weird relationship with food. It's a meal. It's not overeating. But I am a foodie and I have a fat kid inside of me and I need to be able to eat fries and burgers. Now, if you are specifically avoiding something like gluten or dairy, there are so many gluten, dairy-free options that are not healthy.
Right. Oh yeah.
That you could still
Just because
crave.
it has gluten-free smacked on it does not make it healthy.
No.
Oh no. In fact, a lot of the times it's
even worse.
Because they have to put a lot of sugar. But there's this place by us that sells coconut milk ice cream. I mean, it's chock full of sugar. So it's a free treat. It's a Thai food restaurant. I can go and have a plate of noodles, so a plate full of carbs, and it's gluten-free. So it's not going to affect my body and digestion. And then I have some coconut milk ice cream or some fries and a burger or some pizza or whatever it is. I can't have any food that's off limits.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to want it. When you do eat it, you're going to overeat it. That's the first top reason why people cannot diet long-term is because they make foods bad for you. Then you're bad if you eat it. Now you've created restriction. With the 2 free meals per week, when I crave something, now I'm very snooty about food. I'm not just going to grab the cookie at the office because I'm willy-nilly. I'm thinking, Carly, you could have this cookie or you could go to a decadent restaurant and have this, and so you start to become more snooty about food, which is really important.
Yes.
The second thing is if I crave something, but I've already had the 2 free meals, my mantra is this food is not going extinct.
Yeah.
Brownies are not going to disappear next week.
No.
And then I'm going to be screwed. So I think to myself, there's a time and place. You can have anything you want. There's a time and place. This week is not it. You've already done your 2 free meals. Next week, Monday, you reset. You're going to, you could have the brownie then. I never do. I want something else, which is fine.
Yeah, by that
Of
time,
course.
yeah.
Of course.
But it just goes to show that it's based off of scarcity mindset, just because on that day, you can't have it. So you think that you want it.
So true.
Right. Exactly. And because of what I said happened to me before, because you think you're going on a diet tomorrow or the 1st or January or Monday or whatever, then it's like, it really does feel like these foods are going extinct in your mind because you won't allow yourself them after a certain period of time.
Yeah.
The second reason why I think people fail at diets is because we have this black and white thinking true health lives in a gray area. And that's very hard for us to deal with. Black and white thinking looks like this. You eat healthy the whole day, and then at 4 p.m. you wind up eating a Hershey's chocolate kiss while you're in the waiting room at your doctor's office because you're nervous. And then in your mind you say, oh, screw it, I failed.
So
Done.
true.
Today's done. I'll just start
Yeah.
tomorrow. I'll start Monday. I'll start with the first. I'll start this. I'll start, because if you mess up on Thursday, that weekend's done if you're in black and white thinking.
So true. And so many people are stuck in that rut and that prison. And it's that pendulum that just restarts on Monday.
Food prison to reckless abandonment. How many times when I've decided that I failed, then it's like, bring it on. You do so much more damage with food once you've decided you failed than the very thing you wound up eating that made you think you failed. So you eat a cookie, you say the day is over, but what do you eat from the cookie on?
Yes.
It's so much more harmful. I caught myself the other day, and I really want people to stop identifying with their mind as who they are. So I start to use the language of my mind said, my mind told me, because I don't want people to believe that it's them. So because then we identify it as who we are, and we'll never betray who we think we are identity wise. Your identity is the most powerful force in the human mind. So the I am statement, if you have someone who says, I'm not a morning person, no matter what they try, what app they download, they'll never be a morning person. When someone says to me, I'm not a morning person, I'm like, you can't say that. That's not a thing. If you're not a morning person and you never were a morning person, but I tell you, I'm going to give you $20,000 tax-free every morning that you get up at 5 a.m. and you could do whatever you want with it, they're spry as a kitten.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are a morning person.
There's a Neiman Marcus sale, but I have to get there at 4:00 in the morning.
I'm there. I'm a morning person.
Or you have to, so this idea of not identifying with who you are. So the other day I was driving to work, which is when we're really identified in our mind, when we're doing the mundane things, brushing our teeth, washing the dishes, driving to work, we tend to get very identified with the voice in our head. On Monday, I normally sit with my brother-in-law and we make a workout strategy for the week because we exercise together. And we didn't make the time that Monday. I won't say we don't have time because I want everybody to remove that from the vocabulary. We make time for the things that are important for us.
Yes.
It wasn't important for me on Monday for whatever reason. And on Tuesday, I'm driving to work and I hear my mind say to me, well, okay, we didn't make that thing. Maybe we'll just start next week. And then I stopped in consciousness and said, it's Tuesday.
For real.
Which is only one off from Monday.
Yeah.
And I was about to sabotage my entire week because of the black and white thinking that still pops up for all of us. Humans, the mind wants absolutes. It makes us feel safe. That's why we're all geared towards, so many listeners or watchers go, oh yeah, that's me on black and white. It's everybody.
Yeah.
It's everybody.
We like everything figured out.
Yes.
We like it in the black and white. And we like to be either on a diet or off a diet. We don't like to just be in this path of discovery to figure out where we are, who we are, and what our current relationship to food. We'd rather do a paleo Whole30, which is great, right? It's a very sane, eat vegetables. It's a very sane thing to do. But what happens day 31 for people is really what I want to know. So the black and white thinking is the second reason. And the third is because we don't have clarity or we lose clarity.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by that?
If you are not crystal clear on the outcome of what your actions are going to create for you in your life, you're going to lose every time.
So identifying your why?
Yeah. When you find your why, you find your way is that statement. I believe that there's two components to every achievement. You have the process of what you have to go through to achieve that thing, that goal, or that experience. And then you have the outcome, which is what you achieve. The process is always going to be somewhat uncomfortable or painful. unless you change your story about that. But let's just be honest, it's going to be somewhat painful. The outcome is probably worth its weight in gold, exponential.
Yes.
If your focus is on the process, you will drown every single time. If your focus is on the outcome because you have clarity, you'll do whatever it takes. Think about if I sat in front of you and you were very unhealthy and you want to lose 40 pounds. And I said, okay, this is what you're going to have to do. And I went through that list I went through earlier. You're going to have to drink the water and exercise. You're going to be sore all the time. Every time you sit down to the toilet, you're not going to be able to get up.
Yes.
And you're going to be peeing a lot because you're drinking a lot of water. And
peeing a lot. You need to go to sleep at 10. You need to wake up at 5. You need to meditate. You need to food shop. You need to fight for a parking spot at Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, wherever.
Yep.
So you need to spend $1 million on your groceries. Don't forget your supplements.
Chiropractor.
They're looking for the door. They're like, where's the exit sign? This is crazy. Instead, if I come to them, not with the process, but the outcome, and I say, okay, you're going to have incredible confidence when you go to the store and try on clothes. You're going to have so many options. You're not going to know what to pick. When you look at yourself in pictures, you're going to feel like, I own that. You know, you can look at yourself in the mirror and you go, this didn't come naturally to me. I own this. I did this. You're going to wake up in the morning with tons of energy. You're going to want to bounce out of bed. Your skin's going to glow. The whites of your eyes. People are going to be naturally attracted to you. You're going to be an inspiration. You, when you're 90, are going to be at your grandchild's, theater performance, walking, clapping. You're going to be the hottest one at the nursing home.
I love it.
Then people say, sign me up. They don't even know what they need to do. They say, sign me up at the dotted line. Anytime I'm struggling, because I struggle, every human struggles, I think to myself, Carly, what's your outcome? How will you feel? What will it look like? I visualize it. And then I say to myself, what's not available to me right now? And what won't be available to me if I don't do it? And it creates so much clarity for me. There's so much emotion behind it. I literally did this yesterday for myself because strategy has to change when your life changes. I had an excellent strategy for exercise before I got pregnant. I woke up at 5 a.m. every morning, did 20 minutes of meditation, and then my brother-in-law would pick me up. We would go to Lifetime Gym. We were using the Sweat with Kayla app. We were doing and I was ripped and it was amazing. And then I got pregnant and I got really sick and I sleep 11 hours a day now and I'm growing a child. And every time I sat down to meditate and close my eyes, it was like, nope, not doing that. And so now that I feel better, now that I'm in the second trimester and I feel a lot better, my mind naturally goes to, okay, cool. I had a strategy that was working before. And I look back and I say, I'm not doing this Sweat with Kayla app.
No.
And I needed to create a whole new strategy. So I sat down and I started to create the strategy, but my clarity wasn't there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I got to find a prenatal yoga. And
you're in Austin. That'll be easy.
Yeah. Like I just tripped over one during this conversation.
Right.
But also, we're talking to people who may be under exercisers, but there's just as many over exercisers and people who can get really obsessed about it.
Yeah.
That was the identity piece that I said, watch your identity. I was the person with the kettlebells and the lunges and the burpees, and is what I did. And so now that I went to the midwife, she's like, everything should be soft. Prenatal yoga, walk. I'm like, walking is for old people. You want me to walk them all? I'm going to walk into pee in the pod. I will walk right out. But I needed to let go of that identity of I am super fitness, whatever. And it was like, okay, a new strategy. But I also then created the outcome. I said, how do I want this pregnancy to go? And what do I want the outcome to be? How do I want to visualize myself? What do I want to feel? What do I want to see? And then I got really clear. Then I wrote the strategy. And now today I actually feel really pumped to go do the things that normally I would associate as painful if I didn't do that exercise of that clarity.
You essentially reverse engineered from your clarity state.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. I always start at the solution and work
brilliant.
backwards because people live in the problem. We spend 90% of the time in the problem, 10% in the solution. Even when you're communicating with someone, I always think before I sit down to communicate, what's the solution? Even before we sat down for this, it was like, what I thought to myself, what's the ideal solution and outcome of what I create here? And then you work backwards and you say, okay, what are the tools? What do I need? What are my resources? Who do I need to reach out to? Do you need accountability? Do you need knowledge? Do you need a coach? Do you need to find, a podcast that you can listen to on the way to work that really inspires you? But don't get stuck in that stuff without doing the outcome, because then you're going to download the podcast and then you're not going to listen to it.
Yep.
You're going to listen to the news on the way to work and be super depressed and anxious. And then you're going to eat I was going to say kolache because I live in Austin, but that doesn't occur anywhere outside of this really odd thing. You're going to eat a donut. You're going to eat a breakfast taco. My coaching had to change. When I was in New York, it was like bagels and lox, and now
not in South Texas.
Those breakfast tacos and that barbecue and those kolaches.
Yes.
Oh yeah. No, I was in med school and residency in San Antonio, and literally the breakfast tacos are the reason why everyone is diabetic in San Antonio.
San Antonio, I think, is the fattest city in the state.
Yeah, it is by far. I'm from Waco, Texas, which the kolache place that's the most famous in Texas. It's in West Texas. And
are you talking about the Check Stop?
Yep. The Check Stop.
My husband, we live in Dallas, and my husband, anytime we go that way, he's like, we have to go to the Check Stop. Like he loves the Check Stop. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
This because last week my husband went on a trip to Dallas for work, and he stopped there and brought home kolaches. And I was so mad. I'm like, I am pregnant. Okay, you cannot bring home kolaches.
No, that's just wrong.
I guess it's just a Texas thing though, because kolaches are such a big thing, and I had no idea what they were before I lived here. No,
there's
idea.
A lot of gross Texas things like chicken fried steak. What is that?
Yeah.
100%.
or they call it chicken fried chicken. Like, it's just fried chicken. We get it.
Yeah,
exactly. So true. And then you come to California and then there's a juicer thing on every single corner. It's like totally opposite here.
Yeah. God, I need to move there.
It's amazing. It's
out of this
really,
chicken fried chicken. State of mind.
It's just so much cheaper to live in Austin than here. I will say that.
I can afford so much chicken fried chicken.
Yeah. Instead of $7 for a green juice that's that big. Yeah. So obviously you are going to resonate with so many of our listeners. And I want to make sure that the listeners that you resonate with know how to get a hold of you so that you can help them go to that next level. Because there's so many people that really need that element that you offer. And so can you tell the listeners how to find you? And I think that we have an offer, correct? For our listeners?
I wanted to put something together for everybody who is listening today. How to find me is to check out nutritionalwisdom.com, which is the website. Also, I have a really active Instagram and Facebook page. You can follow Nutritional Wisdom, but also Carly Pollack, because I do a lot of things on both. I have online courses that are so great because it allows me to reach and educate people all over the country and in other countries. Also, I love online learning because you can do it at your own time. Yeah. The course that I'm really excited about right now is a course I made called Conscious Eating 101. It's a 4-week course. Name. Yeah, it's a 101. There's a 201 coming.
Nice.
It's a 4-week course and it's very lightweight. Every week is a video. Every few days is a journal entry. There's a recorded meditation specifically to what we're talking about. It's not going to take people more than 10 minutes a day. But after the 4 weeks, you will find yourself so much more aware of why you're going towards food. If you're physically hungry or if it's an emotion you're trying to shift, since those are the really only 2 reasons why we eat, for physical hunger and to shift emotion.
Yep.
The course is normally $97. I put up a page for it to be $47, and then I'm also offering 10% off to the listeners. So I thought, how can I make this something that they couldn't possibly say no to?
Yeah,
for sure.
I'll give you the specific link to the $47 Conscious Eating, and then they'll use the promo code 10 off.
Okay, perfect. And we'll
Awesome.
put that in the show notes for sure for everyone so that there's no doubt how to get a hold of you and get that discount that I'm sure is limited. So if you're listening to this, a year down the road, it's probably not going to be available. So you want
But it's 97 and you should buy it anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because you still need the information.
Trying to play on that scarcity mindset. Come on now. I'm trying to help you out, girl.
You got it. This is exactly what we do. It's going away, you guys.
Right.
And you better go to Banana Republic every Wednesday and buy the that you don't know you need.
Awesome.
I love it. Well, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. Just so you know, I don't know if you're going home for the holidays, but I'm going to be in Austin for the holidays. I would love to hook up with you for coffee or something. Well, I guess
100%.
I don't know. Yeah,
No,
for sure.
Or for kolaches.
I'm going to tell you it's coffee, and then we're going to kolache.
Okay.
There's a place in Austin called Picnic, and it is a completely paleo, clean, organic. They do butter, MCT oil, peppermint extract, mocha, cool, like grass-fed collagen. I'm going to take you there. It's
Done. I will take you up on that. I will receive that with graciously. I love it. Well, thank you so much for spending this morning with us. I know the listeners are just going to freaking love this episode.
You just made this so human for everybody.
Right?
Really just the best way to put it in a nutshell is that you just made it human.
So true. So true. So I would love to have you back in the future for once you come up with conscious eating 202 or 201, whatever.
Done.
But truly, you've been a pleasure. I love talking to you. I look forward to talking to you more. And we always end every episode with an important message for our listeners. Cinthanie, if you could end this amazing episode for us.
You are a good person and you deserve good things to happen to you.
Amen. Amen. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Fitz and Healthy podcast. Carly, thank you. And thank you guys for listening. We'll see y'all next week. Bye. Make sure that you find us on social media. You can find Cinthanie on Instagram and Facebook at Cinthanie. So that's CINTHANIE, and on Snapchat at Cinthanie P. And find me on social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all at Club Fitz Fitness. Remember, that's FITZ Fitness. And on Snapchat, just at Club Fitz. I appreciate your time listening so much. If you enjoyed this episode of the Fitz and Healthy podcast, can you please go do me a favor and go subscribe at whatever platform that it is that you listen to podcasts. Leave a review. We read every single review and we appreciate the time that you take to leave your thoughts and opinions. Now, also remember, while I am a medical doctor, the information I provide here is not intended to provide medical advice or a professional diagnosis, opinion, treatment, or services to you or to any other individual. I am providing general information for educational and informational purposes only, and it is not a substitute for medical or professional care. You should not use this information in place of a visit, call, consultation, or the advice of your physician or other healthcare provider. The information I share is not intended to treat, cure, or diagnose any disease or medical condition. If you believe you have a medical emergency, just call 911 immediately or your physician. Now, enough of that medical legal jargon. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I appreciate your time. Now, go live a Fitz and healthy life.